In this tutorial, we're going to use Photoshop CC 2020 to work on Classroom in a Book Chapter 7, which is all about typographic design and builds off some of the elements that we've worked on in the other assignments. So let's go ahead and open up that 07 start file in your lessons. Do a file, save as. Let's do first initial, last name, in the right folder, Photoshop, Classroom in a Book, Chapter 7, and PSD is fine. Let's go ahead and say save and say OK. Alright, so it's one of the first things we want to do always is check your size. So image size. This is 8 by 10.5 at 200 pixels, so it's not quite big enough for a standard sheet of paper. Standard sheet of paper is 11 inches tall, but for this purposes we don't need to worry about it too much. I just want you to get in the habit of always checking the size, checking the resolution before you start messing with anything as far as the image goes. So this should look familiar, the lady that we just worked on from the last assignment. So it should be pretty familiar. Let's go ahead and play with a few things. First thing we're going to do is create that masthead, it's the top part. So let's do a view, fit on screen, and so we can see the whole thing. And if you don't have it turned on, turn on view and rulers, because those rulers help a lot. If it's not in inches, you can do a right click and make sure you change it to inches on both sides. And one of the things we're going to do is drag a guide. So we want to know where the center of this is. So to drag a guide, you click and hold over the ruler over to where you want it. So we want 4 1/4. And it didn't give us one. Here we go. 4 1/4. So you can kind of see exactly where the middle is. This helps a lot when you're trying to center your text, especially because the grabber bars have little center marks, so you have something to align it to. Alright, let's go ahead and do a Control S and save what we've got so far. Let's grab our type tool. In our type tool, let's go ahead and choose something like for this one also we are in Windows Workspace. We are in Graphics and Web, which is a little bit different. We usually are working in Photoshop Essentials because that's going to pop up a few other things like the character and the paragraph and the glyphs, which we don't normally see. So I just want to take a peek there. So we've got our type tool. I want to go ahead and change it to, let's try something with a serif. So maybe I want to, and you can actually do sorting by, so filter by. I want to go ahead and get a serif, so one that's got feet. Some pretty cool. You can also find ones that are similar to. So let's go ahead and grab Minion Pro. And let's grab Minion Pro. And I have quite a few of them because I've been collecting for a while. Let's just say Minion Pro. And then instead of display, let's go ahead and churn it into, how about bold? Is bold idea? Bold works. Bold works. And let's go ahead and try size 144. Now in paragraph, we're going to go ahead and tell it we want it to be centered. And we're going to put our insertion point right here about the middle, so it knows where we want to put that center point. And let's go ahead and make our title digital. I'm going to go over to my character and tell it to be all caps so I don't have to worry about it. So I'm going to hit my insertion point. Okay. Digital. Alright, now I've got a few issues with how this looks. It's too big, but you can see I'm using that guide to line up my typography, so I have that center point. But this text doesn't really go with this style. So I can go ahead and triple click it. When I'm in my text tool, that'll select everything. Then I can go back through and choose a different text, choose a different thing. So let's go ahead and try Myriad Pro Semi-Bold instead. So we're on minion, we want myriad. M-Y-R. Oh, I'm in serifs, I want all. M-Y-R-I-A-D Pro. And we want semi-bold. All right. So we've got something nice and bold here, because what we're going to do is create a clipping mask behind it. So as soon as I'm happy with it, I'm going to go ahead and click out. How am I doing centered wise? I'm not too bad. I can nudge it with my arrows a little bit if you're off. All right, go ahead and let's go ahead and do a Control S and save what we've got so far. So we've got our masthead. We want to do some other stuff with it. We want to go ahead and clip a image to the letters. So we want to make the letters see through with that image behind it. So let's go File and Open and go ahead and grab that circuit board that was in the folder. Now let's do a Window, Arrange, 2 up vertical, so I can see them side by side. And what I want to do is just grab this background layer and bring it up into my digital. And then I can go ahead and close my circuit board. So I can see that my circuit board is really, really big. So let's go to Edit and Transform, Scale. And that will give me the transform bars. And for now, you can just grab those. I want to go ahead and stretch it out. If you don't want to, if you want to just stretch it without having the proportion change, or you do want to change the proportion, hold Shift. So you can kind of change things a little bit that way. So you want it to cover the letters, and go ahead and click the check mark when you're ready for it. Let's go ahead, and when we're ready for it, let's double click, rename this circuit board. It's always better to label your layers, because sometimes you can't tell what's going on from the thumbnails. Alright, let's go ahead, and from the thumbnails, let's go ahead, we want to make sure our image is above what we want to clip it to. So we're going to click on circuit board, do a right click, and we want to create clipping mask. So that allows us to clip that image underneath to our letters. You do have the option within the image to go ahead and move those around, so you can choose what's going to show through. I'm pretty happy with it so far. Let's go ahead and add some effects to it, make it pop a little bit more, because it's a little dead on the page right now. Let's go ahead and go to our FX, our layers, and let's grab a inner shadow. Alright, it's going to give us a pop-up menu. Our pop-up menu, let's go ahead and change that blend mode is set to multiply. Let's take that opacity to 48. Let's take it a distance of 18. Our choke should be 0. Our size should be 16. So you can kind of see what's going on if you turn that preview on. And let's go ahead and say, oh, you know why it didn't do anything? Because we're trying to do it to the circuit board and not the letters themselves. So let's go ahead and go back to digital, FX, inner shadow. Thought it looked weird. So we've got those all set from before, so now you can see it's got some actual depth to it. So make sure you're on the text layer. So let's say OK. Alright, let's go ahead and do a Control S and save that one. So now we want to do what's called creating some type on a path. So if we go to Window, we want to make sure we're on the model layer. Let's go to Window. Let's come down here to Paths. And it's already got a speech path put together for us so that we can type something on it. So you can see it's kind of a bit of a wave that we're going to put some text onto. So let's go ahead and grab our type tool. And we want to make sure we go to Paragraph and do Right Align. In Character, let's go ahead and do our Myriad Pro Regular. So make it smaller. We want our size to be about 14. Our tracking, which is our space between the letters, we want to bring it together just a little bit, is that V-A, so a -10. Our color is going to be white. So you can do here, that's F is white, pure white. Say OK. And we do want it to be all caps. So when we're typing on a path, the trick is your cursor will turn into a curved, kind of a bent cursor. That tells you that you're on the path. Now to make this one work, you've got to start close to her mouth. So we're going to click there, and we should get the ability to say what's new with games, but we didn't. So let's undo that and try again. And get rid of that one. So I'm on the speech path. I'm on my type. I'm on white. Okay. There we go. So now I just had it too close. What's new with games? Alright, and let's take the word games. So double click on that. And instead of regular, let's go ahead and make it bold instead. Alright, when we're happy with it, we're going to go ahead and commit changes. So now we want to have three other statements. We want to have what's new with music. We want to have what's new with phones. So let's go ahead and grab that one and close it and delete it because I've got an extra layer there. So let's go ahead and throw that one away. Alright, so what's new with games? Let's do a right click and duplicate the layer and say copy. Let's go ahead and grab our move tool and our type tool, and instead of games, let's go ahead and put in music. Come on. M-U-S. Oh, I didn't get rid of games. With music. Alright, go ahead and bold my music. I want to do one more. So let's go right over here and right click, duplicate layer. Nope, I don't want to delete, I want to duplicate. And instead of music, we're going to do phones. But it's not going to actually change the copy. So we have to go in and do that ourselves. Let's grab that. Let's go ahead, grab our type tool, delete music, type in phones. Alright, it's already bold, so now what we can do is do a Control S and save. And we're going to add a little bit more of an effect to this because it's kind of cool. You can take it, you can rotate it a little bit. Rotate. There we go. When you're done, hit enter or the commit. I'm going to grab what's new with games, rotate it just a bit. Nudge it up with my arrows. Alright, hit that and say commit. Alright, so now what else can I do with that? I want to go ahead and zoom in so you can see a little bit more. And with my what's new with games, I'm going to go ahead and warp the text. So with my what's new with games, I'm going to right click in the layers panel and I'm going to come over to warp text. In my warp, I want to go ahead and do the wave. And I want to bend it about 33. I want to take my horizontal distortion to -23 and my vertical to 5. You see how you get kind of a different look and feel there. And let's go ahead and say OK. Now you can do the same thing with the other layers. Go ahead and do it with phones. So right click and warp text. Let's go ahead and grab that wave. And we made it 33 and a -23 and a +5. We're happy with it, say OK. So it's up to you. I guess we should do it with the music one as well. It'll look weird if we don't. So go back up to my warp text, wave, 33, -23, +5, and OK. Alright, so now I can go ahead and play with those positioning of those if I want to move them just a little bit. Maybe I want to take it and close that path because I don't need that now. Let's go ahead and clear my transform controls.